Hey, I'm Sarah Smith, family doctor, clinical day advisor, and the charting coach. Welcome back to Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast, where we're going to be interviewing peers or world experts who can help us think about our clinical day in a way that is more sustainable and create time for our lives outside of medicine.
Happy Women Physician Day, everybody. It is that time of the year again, and we want to celebrate all those women physicians out there who are working hard and sometimes under extremely difficult situations and circumstances and pressures. We know that you have the mental load of home and other activities in addition to your work. And so this is a great big shout out to you guys that we are thinking of you. We think you're amazing. We're super proud of you, and we're rooting for system changes and sustainability within our medical careers. Don't forget that you deserve rest and recovery, and that's something that we really, really strive for when we're trying to create sustainability within our clinical days, is to give you more time for your evenings and weekends. If you're interested in extra assistance with that, you can check out our Women Physician Day discount that we have going on. So you go to chartingcoach.ca/charting-champions. Our Charting Champions program is designed to help you in the environment that you work right now to figure out how can we help you find simple solutions redesigned so that you can get home hours earlier and with the work of the day done. And we have a special discount on just for you. So don't miss out on that. Go check it out, chartingcoach.ca/charting-champions. See you there. All right, everybody, today I have with us the amazing Sunny Smith. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast finally, and especially with regards to it being Women Physician Day coming up. In fact, I think we're launching this on Women Physician Day. So happy Women Physician Day, everybody, and welcome, Sunny.
Thank you. It's so beautiful to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Now, tell us a bit about you, because not all of our listeners know who you are.
Okay, so I trained as a family physician. I spent my career at UC San Diego School of Medicine, running a free clinic and advising med students. And then I fell into coaching in a way that you're familiar with the story where I got in this bicycle accident and my life kind of came to a screeching halt. I wasn't able to do any of the many, many things, the completely unsustainable clinical medicine that I was doing and academic medicine that I was doing. And so everything that I thought had to be done by me or the world would just stop spinning. I learned the world didn't stop spinning, even though I stopped doing all of it. So for a handful of months, I was at home and couldn't care for myself, couldn't feed myself, bathe myself, anything like that. When I went back to work, I had to choose what I was going to be able to go back to because I couldn't go back to all of it. So then I had found coaching while I was down, and it helped me to reframe this instead of as a terrible thing that happened to an opportunity to change things and be intentional and choose on purpose. So I really went back and was choosing which things I chose to continue to be a director of, which committees I stepped down from, which types of things just no longer were the highest priority in my life anymore. And then I thought, wow, I bet this could work for a lot of women physicians. So I decided to train to be a coach because I found it so effective to realize that everything in my life was a choice. And I had been making those choices, but not understanding I had been choosing them. It was just living on default. And as soon as I was intentional about it, I could make very different choices. And even just the small things started to make a big difference. So I got certified, I started training women physicians or coaching them. And I saw it worked for like person after person after person. And I was like, this really does work. It's not just me. So then I grew this. At first, it was just me in this coaching company, and I have a podcast and it's called Empowering Women Physicians. And then I brought a whole bunch of coaches together and a whole bunch of clients together. And now it's like this big program of beautiful community and impact where you are one of the amazing coaches that come to help people change their lives. And people, I have to say, I know you know this, but people in my program are always singing your praises years after you're gone from teaching them about how you changed their life with one session. So it's really amazing the work that you do. And thank you for being a part of our program.
Oh, thank you so much for that shout out. I know that there's I love being in the program with your women and just helping them understand what you're right. What is the choices we have here, and what is the redirect, the reframe that could happen that doesn't need us to go and turn up everything in our lives, but potentially stay where we are and start making differences, which is so important. Okay, so tell us now about, if you put your finger on the pulse of women physicians right now, what are you hearing? Because you have a big Facebook group, Empowering Women Physicians. I don't know how big it is right now, but there's a lot of discussion in there often and lots of topics coming up. You talk to women all the time who are working in the physician space. So give us your kind of ideas on what you're noticing.
I think mostly the overarching thing is I think people thought they would be happy once they arrived at this
Mm.
certain place. Like once they became an attending physician, it's always something, right? First is once you get to residency, once you get to fellowship, once you get to be an attending, once you have your babies, once they get into school, and there's like always this moving line where you think you're going to be happy. And so sort of like midlife, people tend to come to me and are like, I'm not happy. I worked so hard and this is not what I thought it was going to be. And that tends to be the theme of why they're coming. And most often they're either at an inflection point or something has just gone wrong that they're unhappy with. And it can be things like, because to be able to be a high functioning physician, you kind of need all of your life to line up correctly. Like you need to be in good health. You need to not have family drama. You need to not have relationship drama, because it takes you firing on all cylinders to be able to keep up with the pace, the inhuman pace they expect of us. So people will come to me if one of those personal things have gone off for them, like something in their relationship, something, some like personal distressor, or a professional distress, disappointment, challenge, something they were expecting a promotion and they gave it to someone else, or they could have even be at risk of being fired, or they could just whatever. People are either coming from a significant pain in their life or they have a big dream and want to do things differently. I think the thing is everybody knows that they want to do things differently. They just don't know how. And I think people, in medical school, we're not taught anything about coaching and what that is. It's sort of everybody feels like when they come in that they're broken and there's something wrong with them. I'm sure that's the case in your programs, is that people feel like it's an individual problem that they can't keep up. And it tends to get worse and worse sort of over time with midlife if you don't gain some new skills and perspective and very strong boundaries, as you know. So yeah, I think people just, it's really hard out there. It's really hard. Like I have a friend who said if it was an Olympic sport, being a woman physician, you know how like when you're a gymnast and you have jumps, there's like the 9.0 and the 8.6 like level that you could get if you got all right. It's like we've chosen the 10.0 level of hardship. And we have to have all of these pieces functioning perfectly for everything to go okay. And if not, how do we change? People feel trapped and they don't see any other way of doing it other than the way they've been doing it for the last 5, 10, or 20 years. And it doesn't have to be that way. I think especially now, post COVID and with AI and so many things changing so fast, so quickly, I think what medicine's going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years is probably not easily recognizable. Like even you and I met 6 years ago, and the way people are charting now is so different than the way
Mm-hmm.
people were charting 6 years ago. And so I just think knowing that we're not trapped, things are not going to stay the same, they're going to be flexible. How do you want to show up differently? And are you willing to evolve and take the risks that it takes to do things differently?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that gives us a good finger on the pulse of some of the things that you guys are out there struggling with and knowing about. Do you have much idea about the gender gap? We hear a lot about this gender gap, and there's been some good studies on gender gap, and not just in the US, it's also in Canada. They've had some good research come out recently that there is truly a gender gap, and I certainly see it. We've had our new registrars in the clinic for less than a week. There's a boy and a girl. I should say it like that, a female and a male. And already I see the differences in types of patients they're given and types of consults that are happening because I'm in that room and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's such a difference in so many ways in society, in culture, in medicine, in the exam room, in specialties, in pay, in, there's the wage gap which becomes a wealth gap. It's a $2 million difference between what a male and a female over the course of your career will make. That's a huge amount of money. And if you look at it just for, say on average, around 75% females would make around 75% of a white male colleague. That's working 3 months for free. Completely free if you earn 75%, right? That'd be like January, February, March. You could have stayed home if you were a white male. So there's the gender gap, which is very real. And then there's the other things that you were kind of alluding to are if you're a woman physician, you're objectively going to get more messages from your staff and objectively going to get more messages from your patients because we are seen as more friendly and more approachable and a little bit more people pleasing and expected to sacrifice ourselves more for others. Like when you're in a room of, mixed genders, the woman gets asked to take the notes. I mean, now it's AI, hopefully, but, and who's supposed to get the coffee and who's like, there's just all these default things and like who takes care of the kids at home. Generally, there's a bias towards how this plays out. And so there's no doubt if it is in every facet of our society everywhere that is going to show up in the exam room and it's going to show up in the clinic and it's going to show up in demands and it's even going to show up virtually of what people expect from us and what we're willing to expect or to accept unless you're coaching with Sarah Smith. Then she will teach you to have boundaries and to teach people how to treat you.
Yeah. And I do want to acknowledge that it's not just gender. We're just more concentrating on gender because today it was Women's Physician Day, but we absolutely know we have disadvantaged groups within our physician population. We have disabilities within our physician population. Mm-hmm. All of this contributes to hardships. And we know that the system is often not accepting of those types of bits and pieces as well, which adds further difficulty to even some of our women, or many of our women physicians actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to that same thing is that it's not the individual that is broken. It's that the system and the society is what it is currently. And then we are learning how to call it out, identify it, whether it's for differently abled or people who are from historically excluded backgrounds of any kind, to call that out and to realize, okay, this is what it is. Now, what do we do? It shouldn't be on us to have to change the system, right? We do need the system to change. And I think sometimes people think coaching is fixing the individual, where the system is really what needs to change. And it's a both and, because the system needs to change. And coaching helps the individuals who are part of the system to become a part of the change. And certainly it helps like take the rock out of your shoe while the other people are moving the boulder. We can't all move the boulder tomorrow, but we can change how we respond to the stimulus in our circumstances. In the moment, we can start making changes.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So when you first started, you were saying it'll get better once once I've done medical school. It'll get better once I have my first job. This will be so much better. I'll have control of my hours. This will be so much better when I'm an attending because I'll be able to have some better control over blah, blah, blah. It's kind of this, I'll defer my joy. I'll keep grinding and gritting and crunching my teeth together and persevering through this because it's going to get better on the other side of this. And like you said, somewhere at the beginning or the middle or towards the end of the long career, you're like, it's not getting better. No one's coming to save me. No one's respecting my time yet. I don't have the control that I thought I was going to have. What on earth has gone wrong here? And I now need to leave medicine. But I'm trapped. I've got all this debt. I can't leave medicine. I've got no other skill sets. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is the kind of story that you're seeing a lot of. How does it get better? Like, what is it? What is this magic that happens that helps these women who are really, truly very, very trapped, stuck, feeling dreadful, who come into a program or even into a group of other women who are saying the same thing, going, yeah, you're right. There was a great big, nobody told us about this. Would we have even started this journey if we knew what it actually looked like on the other side? what do you where do you start? How do we start to even address this and start feeling better?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's called the arrival fallacy. You think when you arrive somewhere that things will be better, and it's called a fallacy for a reason because it's not true. There isn't some further date out there because it does really feel very true, doesn't it? Like when you're in med school, as soon as you don't have to take the test, it's going to get better, right? But it really doesn't because residency is really hard. And then you're
Mm,
convinced when you're a resident because it's so hard as a resident that when you're an
mm,
attending, truly, it just must. You have freedom, you have choice, you have agency. Nobody gets to tell you what to do. You don't have to take rotations, people tell you. But as an attending, then you got a mortgage and often children and often like so many life pressures. And so if we can just start to see and name that, you're asking what do we do? The first thing is that we name things and then we normalize them. And because people think that they're crazy and they think that they're uniquely broken. So when people come into our program, we have, done studies and looked at data. And so 77% of people are burned out when they come in, which is even higher than the average. Obviously, they had some kind of thing that was bothering them. That's why they signed up. But so 77% of them meet criteria for burnout. And only 8 weeks later, when they're done, only 33% meet the criteria. So it's like, what changes so much? Obviously, they didn't change
mm,
their job. They didn't
mm-hmm,
leave. They didn't all quit.
mm-hmm,
I mean, I'm sure a lot of them would like to, but they didn't. And so I think it starts with this naming what's happening, normalizing that you are not alone, and then saying, okay, now what do you do about it? Right. So
mm-hmm,
that's really important to start with where you are though, and to name and acknowledge and normalize and point out the things about the culture that make us like some of the things we've already talked about right now. It's like naming what the culture is and how we internalize like strong work as an example. Really? Doing all those things, sacrificing yourself, never sleeping, never eating, never, that's strong? That's strong work? What if strong work was actually sleeping when you were tired and going to the bathroom in between patients, right? What if medicine allowed you to be human? So when you see that you're living day to day in a system that doesn't allow you to be human, doesn't allow you to take a sick day, doesn't allow you to call in where everybody else would, and that's just our life for decades, and you start to be like, wow, not everybody lives like this. This is
mm-hmm,
different because we become so used to it. We forget that this is two standard deviations outside the norm, how they treat us in medicine, right? We're the only ones in medicine who don't get breaks, who can be on for a week straight, who, whatever, name all the different things. And so then we help them see that they do have the agency because we in medicine systematically get exposed to things that are beyond our control. And so we get learned helplessness. And when you
mm,
have learned helplessness, which is a predictable psychological outcome that you will get in animals, mammals, humans, if they put forth an effort to try to do something and they can't make it happen, then they just stop trying. Period. It's very well known psychological study phenomenon. And so what is the answer? The antidote to learned helplessness is agency and doing some little thing and seeing an actual result.
mm-hmm,
So if historically you can't see a result, you have to see, okay, there must be somewhere here I have some choice and some way I impact my outcome. And so even if you can get them to see, okay, well, you're choosing to go to work tomorrow. You don't have to go to work tomorrow. You can never go back in that place ever again. And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. I have bills to pay. I have a family. I have it. We're like, yeah, but you are choosing to go in. Okay. And so if you're going to choose to go in, or you can quit, you can give your notice tomorrow. Like, well, I can't give my notice. They're not going to, but they start to think off, oh, maybe I can look differently at different things I can do over the course of months to years, not necessarily days and weeks. But there's, okay, well, if you are going to go in tomorrow, then what do you think you want to do that would be a little bit different for you? And I can't tell them. I can't be like, how about you leave at 5? Right? Because I have no idea what their situation is, right? They have to say, okay, well, I could tell my MA, not to interrupt me for the first few patients because I'm going to try and close all my charts for the first 3 patients. I'm like, okay, well, you give that a try and you see how it goes. And if they say it didn't work, I'm like, okay, what do you want to do tomorrow then? They're like, how about one patient? How about I close my chart for one patient before I see the next? I'm like, okay, there you go. And then they come back the next time. I'm like, how'd it go? They're like, I did too, or whatever it is. Like if charting is the issue, but if whatever that thing is for them, if they can see that they have some agency to impact the outcome. And it's not the 100 charts in your inbox, right? It's the how do you start with 1%, and that 1% compounds and compounds and compounds. And then over time, as you know very well, whether it's a relationship, like if someone is really struggling in their relationship, if someone is really struggling with, a decision to move, like, okay, well, decision to move. Do you want to stay where you are? Yes or no? No, but I don't know where to go. Okay, well, at least we know you don't want to stay where you are. So we know you want to be somewhere else. So then, like, just owning whatever your inner knowing is. So I would say agency, choice is one. And then also after we do that, when they see they have choice, then we kind of go with this, like, what is your own inner knowing? Stop listening to everybody else's voice out there, because everybody else has a lot of opinions about how we should live our life. And this is our one and only precious life. So how can we just listen to our own selves, right? There's so many things that we're sort of betraying ourselves by giving in and doing what other people want of us, or by not living our truest authentic life and not living in alignment with what's a priority for us. So people sometimes do even go on, like, we're coaching this week and two people went on leave because there was really significant things going on in their life, and it's typical of a woman physician to not take leave when those significant things are going on. But when you come inside to a community that's like a coaching supportive community, helps you to see, wow, this really is ridiculous that I'm not choosing myself. And that was only two out of a group of 40. So it's not like we have everyone going on leave. Don't feel like that's the only way out. It's that you start to recognize what is hard, what is doable, what you can modify, what can't be modified. And realizing also, I think that there's just a whole bunch of different stages of life. Like, we know that you're a family physician. I'm a family physician for, like, pediatrics. You know that there's different developmental phases at 2 years old. And if you're 5 years old, or if you're 13 years old, you expect things to be different. Why do we expect from 20 to 65 to work the exact same at the exact same job or the exact same pace, doing the exact same thing? It just doesn't even make any sense. And so where you are in your 20s and 30s and how you want to practice and what you want that to look like might be a little different than when you're 45 or 50. And maybe you just want to, like, a lot of people are going partially to telehealth when they find some agency, right? And choice. Or they're saying they don't want to work as far from home, or whatever the things are, that they oftentimes, find that a relationship is no longer sustainable. Something is no longer sustainable. And that's what your whole podcast is about, is making things sustainable in your life. And that evolves over time, what is desirable and sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. I had something powerful there, connection, the hearing of other stories. So as those 40 women heard those two women's stories, I can imagine that chat blew up in terms of,
Yeah.
what? That is
Right.
not human. That is not a human
Right.
choice to be baking for yourself. Come on. If that was me, can you imagine? But this is part of the problem of medicine, I think, is we're in isolation. And it's not until we start to, like, for a lot of our day. So we're in a room with a patient. No one else knows the stresses or struggles or even the items on your checklist for today. Nobody knows what's going on for you personally. But as you share your story within a safe psychological space, that's part of the antidote to trauma too, is that connection and the powerful listening in and saying, wait a minute, it's not just me. There's others like this. And what are you going through now? Come on.
Yeah, I think you're so wise to call out that connection being the antidote to trauma, because really being in community is one of the therapeutic things. Because you can't, if you go and tell your spouse, oh, I'm 100 charts behind, or oh, this, they just don't get the mental load. You can't get the mental load of being a physician unless you've been a physician, period. And so when you can get together and talk with other people and be open, honest, vulnerable, truthful, and you can see it so much in others. When you see someone else struggling, or say someone else not going on leave when it's clear they should go on leave. I mean, I've had people in my program who were on chemo and were told to not go on leave, and that they needed to keep coming back sooner. And they're like, so I'm on chemo and I can't figure out how to keep going. I'm getting more and more tired. I'm like, are do you think it might be
Now, what
time for
now?
leave? It might be time for a leave now.
Mhm.
Right? And so everyone else can see it sometimes, and we don't see it because we're this whole culture of strong work. And so again, I don't want the whole focus to be when we need to step out, but that is sort of like one of the extreme examples where things do get so bad, we do need to step out, and anybody else would have stepped out way sooner. Like, for instance, I think women physicians are, because we are, or physicians in general, because we are so resilient, we'll push ourselves harder and harder and harder than anyone else, whether it's in terms of a clinical diagnosis of depression, anxiety, burnout, a family issue. Anybody else would have tapped out sooner. And so by the time I think that a physician asks for help, every single time, listen to them because they are not kidding around. They need the help.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing I heard you say was sometimes you want to go and have something big or different about this one amazing life that we have. And I know that part of the program you have passion projects. It may not be called that, but I've just heard that said a couple of times by the women in the group that they have their passion project. Can you give us some examples of what that looks like? What are you meaning by you might want something else? Tell us more.
That's a great question. So there's many different things. I think, think about when before we got into med school. We were well-rounded individuals and we wrote about all these things on our applications. We were maybe like soccer players and violinists and leaders in our community and loved to cook and do all these things. And then we went to med school and all that went away. And we just, focus on exactly what needs to be done, eat, sleep, drink, study, see patients. And then you become a grown up and it's, the same thing but you're doing it oftentimes with a family there with you, right? So wake up, get everybody fed, get out the house, go to work, come home, do all these things, go to bed, wake up, do it again. And so people are wanting to get back in touch with something that would be meaningful to them, something that's different about them, something that maybe they did, years ago, or something that they've never done that they want to do, whether those things are art, whether those things are business, whether people want to do entrepreneurship, whether people want to do real estate investing, and oftentimes the dream is they want to do something that also, it depends. It could be artistic, but there's that also something that contributes to their financial security in a different way than trading time for money one-on-one in clinical medicine. And so people know that they can come in with big dreams, and we have seen so many people make so many dreams come true that we just believe them. They're like, well, I want to start a blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, let's go. What's the first step? And they're like, well, but what's everyone going to think? And, I don't know if I'm going to succeed. And we're like, it doesn't matter. You take messy and perfect action, and that's how you do what you do. That's how I do what I do. That's how
Mhm.
everybody who has a big dream and sets out to make it real starts, is just, what is that dream? And then set forth to tiny, messy, imperfect actions towards the dream. And we say, we're here for it. We support you. Let's go. Just before I got on the call with you, I had a friend who texted me and she's like, when are we going to have an accountability call? I want to have us meet up and just, because if you have someone who knows what you want to do and knows what your goal is, then it could be really helpful to have someone supportive who wants only to see you succeed. In a group of women physicians is what I do for coaching. All we want is for people's dreams to come true.
Yeah, I love that. First step, other than deciding what you might want to go ahead and do, is the first step is it's okay. It's just that idea of, oh, I'm allowed to think
I
about something
know.
outside
I
medicine and
know.
not my
I
children, and
know.
maybe I just want to exercise once a day or something. Just all these things.
Exactly.
It's like I get to decide what I want to do with myself. I get to make my future look different than it is
Yes.
today. Oh, and then kind of that little inkling of this is allowed.
Yes, it is so loud. It's so funny that we work so hard to get to a life where we truly think we can't even have 15 minutes to ourselves. Like when I very first started coaching, I remember the first clients I would coach and what we coached on. I remember almost all my clients, of course, but from the very beginning, I remember talking to someone who wanted just a handful of minutes, and the only place she could give herself that she was willing was like, well, when I'm at Starbucks, I could sit down and drink the coffee before I come home. And that would be like time to myself. I would be all by myself. And I was like, maybe there might be a little more space in your life of the 100 something hours per week that you could have before, aside from 5 minutes at Starbucks, right? And
Mm.
so it's learning that we do have choices, right, in these little spaces. And if you can't even dream that you could have 5 minutes because the person really thought that her spouse would be mad if she took too long because there were small children at home, I was like, maybe you could have a conversation about this, and it's maybe you can stay for half an hour, maybe even an hour, maybe you can get a babysitter on Saturdays. And so same thing with any other kind of dream. That's just like, there's the dream of relief. I think for so many women in society, it's like the dream is to just have a day by yourself, have a night by yourself, like be in a hotel by yourself. And we even have people who've said, truly say, I kind of fantasize about getting in a small accident or getting a small medical issue and ending up at the hospital overnight because they just want a break. And it's like, this is the status of medicine right now, is that doctors are fantasizing about getting hurt so that they can have a break. So you don't have to get hurt. You're allowed to give yourself a break. You're also allowed to dream. And so again, we've helped people create lots of businesses, lots of side gigs, lots of real estate investors, lots of people who just want to do art or play or run retreats or whatever kind of things they decide to do. And another thing is, you think there's these dreams out there that are going to make you happy, but then when you start doing them, sometimes you realize, you know what? My old life was actually pretty good. I didn't need to go out and create these other things, because it isn't the external thing that's going to make you happy. It's enjoying where you are that is going to make you happy. So sometimes I think I really have found that this past year in particular, where I had clients who were chasing big dreams and doing big things. And that's amazing and exciting. And there's adrenaline and and you're proud and you look at all the stuff. And then you're like, you know what? I just really want to enjoy what I had before. And I didn't
Mhm.
know it was so good when I was so busy looking for something else. Right.
Yeah.
So those are my thoughts.
I remember hearing it's not your job to make you happy. And I'm like,
Yes.
what now? And then it's your job to
Yes.
make you happy. And I'm like, what? What now? How is that possible?
Yes.
When I'm spending all day telling myself how bad this is, how I dread this, I don't want to. And that story being able, that internal dialogue to start to have permission to say, this is the part I enjoy. This is what gives me fulfillment here. This, I can be happy because, and that change that can happen in the place that you are. You're so right.
Yeah,
I wanted to
that's
also,
very wise. Sorry, go ahead. Very wise. It's not your job's job to make you happy. Everybody write
not your
that
job's
down.
job to make you happy.
That's your
Any job,
job. It's
even if
your
you're doing.
job to make you happy. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
there has been some women coming, whether it's coming out of your program or some women physicians who are doing amazing things with our system. So I know we've said the system needs to change. And what I've loved seeing in the last few years, and including inside your Facebook group, is when somebody says, hey, guess what I got? I got to become the chief officer of the wellness committee in our hospital. And that's a brand new position that I've been advocating for years. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
Exactly.
There's people in there advocating for the legal changes around mental health declaration on our applications. There's women out
hmm
there advocating for negotiating better contracts for your pay. Like, we have some amazing women physicians doing some amazing pieces towards system improvement.
Yeah, I think you change the people who change the system, because the system is just people. And so the more
Yeah.
people who are empowered to realize that the system has to change, the more likely they are. And again, if they can do this where they see little tiny bits of wins and successes, then they're willing to do more and more and more. And even when somebody, say, chooses to go part-time for herself or chooses to take a little bit longer maternity leave, then that changes it for the person behind her, because then the person behind her is like, hey, turns out you can take Fridays off and still work here. Or, hey, turns out you can take 3 months off instead of 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and the world still keeps spinning. And so whether you're doing it by modeling for yourself or advocating for someone else or becoming a leader, or I've had people also bring coaching into institutions, which then helps many people at the institution start to advocate for what they want, and people can do things individually, and they can do things like in a specialty or in a unit based, like, okay, in the unit, we're going to experiment with this because someone came in, say, for instance, took your program, was like, hey, listen, here's something we could do. I think we could do it not just for myself, but for the whole office. And then the whole office changes, and then there's a ripple effect of that.
Yeah, exactly. Start little, start for you if needed, but just be encouraged that while we want the system to change, there are actually people who've got enough headspace and time to be able to go and start to make changes in the system. So,
and I feel like when one woman physician changes herself, she changes the world around her, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I see that too. Absolutely. I agree with that. Right. Where do people find you if they're looking to learn more about what you're doing?
I am at empoweringwomenphysicians.com. That's also the name of my Facebook group. If they're a woman physician, they're welcome to come inside. And it's also the name of my podcast.
Love it. Okay. What have we not talked about that we should talk about before we end?
Why everybody needs to join your program, because it's so amazing and it will change their life. And if they've listened this far, the answer is yes. I mean, I know that seems silly, but what I want to say is I can't say how many times I've heard that this work that you do changes people's lives. And every time I do like an open session, people come and they type in, Sarah, or when in my Facebook group, there's somebody saying, I'm just struggling with charting, or I have ADHD, or, I'm this many behind, what should I do? Everybody's like, Sarah Smith, Sarah Smith, Sarah Smith. I just wish that everybody had access to what you do and really took it seriously and paid attention, because there's so much skepticism and so much doubt and so much focus on the system is broken. And yes, it is. But it's like, if you're walking on broken glass, you don't just keep walking on the broken glass, you put on shoes. Right. And so a little bit of what you do is provide protection from this broken system, as much protection as we can do. Could you still get stabbed if you're walking on broken glass with shoes? Yes, but it's less likely to harm. So that's probably not what you were expecting, but that's what I would say to anyone who's listening. If you haven't done Sarah's program, it truly changes lives, because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of lives that have been changed.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that shout out. No, that was not what I was expecting. And I will be in what is it? I'm in your session this weekend, but then you've got your program launching soon. Is that right?
Yes. So by the time this airs, it may have already passed, but we do seasonal programs. And so the Empowering Women Physicians seasonal coaching programs right now is winter 2026. And if they go to empoweringwomenphysicians.com/workshop, there's always like the workshops and open houses there that we do that help people see what coaching really is, what's it really like. You see real women physicians get coached on real problems, and that's what you're going to come in and do for us this weekend. Is some people are really going to come and be like, help, I'm drowning. And you're going to be like, okay, let me just tell me specifically how you're drowning, because that word isn't going to be sufficient. They'll tell you their real problem, and you'll really give them real solutions.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, Sunny, and happy Women Physician Day to everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you found this podcast episode helpful, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. Every time you do, you help a colleague or friend find our podcast, and it can help them too. Don't forget to share it along with your friends. If you're looking for extra help, don't forget we have Charting Champions for physicians and Smarter Charting for nurse practitioners and other clinicians to help you get home with your work done. We are helping you create sustainable clinical medicine. Thanks for listening.